This is the level 0 reset. So you probably tried to change before and you made a plan. You actually followed it. And at some point you stopped. And then you told yourself you'll start again. And you did. And it happened again. And this is not a motivation problem and it's not a discipline problem, but it's actually a loop. Today I'm going to show you exactly what's running it and the exact tools and the exact protocol I used to break out of this. My name is Erikas, and less than a year ago, I couldn't actually hear my alarm. Not struggled to wake up, but I would legit sleep through it without hearing it. And the days I did hear it, I would turn it back off, go snooze, and go back to sleep. And I was addicted to nicotine, I was addicted to weed, I was addicted to video games and my phone, I was addicted to social media, and I was really just a slave to cheap dopamine. And I couldn't really find anything that explained why or how to solve this. So I made it myself. And the reason I actually made this protocol is because I was actually stuck in the same loop myself. So I just kept trying to force myself to change. And sometimes it worked for a while. I'd build good habits, I'd maintain them, I'd get the momentum going, and I felt this time was actually different. Until everything crashed down again. I told myself I had to change. I believed it completely. And forcing it never really worked. But here's what I refused to accept. That I was born like this, that I couldn't do it, that it wasn't my fault, that some people are just unlucky and some are luckier than others. I refused. Because I knew something wasn't right. Something, somewhere, it wasn't true. So instead of accepting the narrative and accepting the story, I actually decided to understand the mechanism. What is the brain doing? Why does it keep running this loop? What is actually stopping change from really sticking with me? And I went deep for months. And I started applying what I found, not as motivation, but not as pressure, not as willpower, but as a system. And here we are, less than a year later. I built a sales team from 0 to 6 people, and 2/3 of them actually never had any prior sales experience in their life. Despite that, we became a top 2 team in Europe. And I'm in the best shape of my life, and for the first time, I don't have to actually force it. Working out isn't something that I have to negotiate with myself or challenge myself with. It's just part of me and who I am. So a few weeks ago, I made a vision board, and I now live in a home that looks exactly like the pictures I actually uploaded. And I work in high-ticket sales, which is exactly what I had as a mental image. And I get paid the number I actually just used to hope for. And for the first time in my life, going to work doesn't actually feel like something I have to survive. I actually want to be there. And last night, I decided to lose sleep to finish this. And 3 hours sleep, went back to work, came home, took a cold shower to wake myself up because I was getting sleepy. I sat down, and I haven't stood up since. I mean, I haven't eaten anything yet today, like at all. I haven't eaten one single meal today. And I'm not finished until I finish this. It's currently 11 a.m. And yeah, I want you to believe how serious I am about this. Because I didn't make this protocol because I need it. Like, I made it because I remember exactly what it feels like when you're trying to make change. You hope it's going to be your last time, and you put in so much effort to change yourself just to come back in the same exact place you began. I remember exactly what it felt like to keep starting over and never understanding why. And I don't want that to be you anymore. So that's why I made this protocol. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the level 0 reset. And I'm gonna go through the full breakdown, start to finish. I'm gonna go through this whole protocol in one recording. And this is actually called level 0 reset because it's really, it should be like the foundation of what you're building next. So for example, when you're trying to plant new seeds, you don't just start by planting them, right? First, you have to prepare the ground and actually pull the old roots out. And that's exactly what we're doing with Level 0 Reset. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. I'm so excited for this. So section 1, the loop and what exactly is happening. Now, most people, including me, of course, have experienced the same pattern over and over again. You feel motivated, you make a plan, you follow it for a little bit, and everything looks cool, and then suddenly it's not so easy anymore. Resistance appears, and you fall back into old behaviors. You restart later, but no luck once again. And this is not random, and it's not a personality flaw of yours, and it's not how you were born. From a neuroscience perspective, this is literally a closed loop that happens through repetition. So our brain is designed to conserve energy, and it's forced to predict outcomes. It prefers what's familiar even if it hurts us. And so Dr. Joe Dispenza explains this. Dr. Joe Dispenza explains this as the habitual self. Over time, repeated emotions, thoughts, and behaviors wire the brain to operate automatically. Once a pattern becomes familiar, the nervous system tries to preserve it at all costs. That's why motivation fades, that's why willpower feels unreliable, that's why restarting always feels easier than keeping going. So before changing anything, before changing new habits, before setting new goals, the first thing we have to do is we have to spot the pattern and spot the loop that we are currently in. So I want you to do this exercise. I want you to do this right now. Don't put this off. Do this right now. Either pause this video or I'll give you a few seconds to do this, but write this down and answer yourself honestly. What behaviors do I keep returning to? At what point do I usually quit? And what discomfort do I avoid when I fall back? So what I mean by this is, what behavior do I keep returning to? What is the one thing that when everything starts going back to normal again, when you lose your momentum, let's say, when you start failing, what behaviors come up first? And now keep in mind, this is not self-judgment. This is awareness. Because you cannot change something that you are not aware of. So, we're going to section 2. Why effort fails on the identity in the brain level. And most self-improvement effort actually focuses on effort, more discipline, more pressure, more motivation, go hard. And in a way, it's true, but this approach usually fails because behavior usually comes from identity. And so neuroscience actually shows that repeated behaviors actually become automatic through neural habit circuits in the brain. This is a really great study I found, and I recommend if you have time you check into this. But really, to summarize everything, neuroscience shows that behavior is controlled by 2 competing systems in the brain. Number 1 is the goal-oriented one. It makes decisions based on outcomes. I want X to happen, so I have to do Y. I want to get jacked. I want to have a great physique, so I'll go to the gym. I want to feel healthy, so I eat good food. This is the conscious part of the brain. But there is also the second part, which we usually forget, and it is the stimulus response, also known as the unconscious brain. And it pretty much works only on automatic habits. And when the automatic system wins, when our unconscious brain wins, we fall back into the same patterns that we always fall back into. And yeah, once a pattern becomes familiar, the brain tries to preserve it, and that's why motivation fails and restarting always feels easier. And in his book Atomic Habits, James Clear explains this pretty simply. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to be. And so, if your identity is the same, then no matter what you do, your behavior will eventually snap back to match the identity you have. In other words, whatever your identity is, whatever your internal state is, your reality will always match it. And Dr. Joe Dispenza actually explains the same mechanism neurologically, is that your identity is reinforced by repeated thoughts and emotional states. I'm going to repeat this one more time for you. Your identity is reinforced by repeated thoughts and emotional states. The brain wires these patterns into automatic responses like we discussed earlier, so it doesn't have to think, so it can preserve energy. So it only goes back into what it knows. And so, through repeated thoughts, through repeated actions, and through repeated emotional states, you basically form your identity. For example, if your identity is built around avoidance, distraction, short-term comfort, procrastination, all of these were my case, by the way. I'm just taking my example. Then when you have this identity and it becomes really strong, then you actually try to change, and forcing new habits actually creates an internal conflict. So basically, there's two sides of you that are fighting, and the brain always will pick familiar discomfort over unfamiliar improvement. Your brain will rather stay comfortable even if it damages you instead of actually making change that's going to be helpful to you. And this is where the self-sabotage comes from. Not subconsciously, not consciously, but automatically, subconsciously. And Brian Levesque in their book The Mountain is You, describes this as internal resistance. So the unconscious part of your brain basically protects the familiar version of yourself, the only version that you know. If that version is the reason that you're stuck, the same principle applies. And so understanding this really removes the concept of self-blame, because the issue is not your effort. The issue is not your character or your personality or the way you were born. The issue is when you're trying to change the behavior without actually changing the system that is producing it. And so sustainable change, real lasting change, only happens when identity starts to shift. So let's get into section 0. And this is where the fun start begins. So level 0 is not about building a perfect routine. What they're basically resetting and why is we are stopping unconscious behavior before we actually add anything on top. So the goal is to create conditions for neuroplasticity. And if you don't know what it is, neuroplasticity is basically the brain's ability to rewire itself and make new connections, make new canals. And it rewires itself based on attention, on repetition, emotional state, and of course, on rest. So neuroscience actually shows that the brain constantly rewires itself through the process called neuroplasticity. I have the study right here, and it's actually really interesting. But to keep it short, when the brain expects negative outcomes or expects stress, a structure called the hannebula can actually suppress dopamine activity. So that reduces your motivation, and it can actually literally suppress your action. Like it actually, how do I say this? It literally impacts your motor functions. It literally impacts the way your body functions and the way your body listens to what you say. So resistance and avoidance are not actually purely psychological, and it's not just purely a willpower problem. It's also just as much a neurological thing. So this is why progress just suddenly collapses like nothing. And so attention, repetition, and emotional state, and of course rest, they all influence how these pathways are going to change. These are all the things that help your pathways change: attention, repetition, emotional state, rest, and yeah, that's it. So, attention, repetition, emotional state, and rest all influence how these pathways are going to change. And Dr. Joe Dispenza actually emphasizes that who you are being mentally and emotionally matters just as much, if not more, than what you are actually doing mechanically. Let me let me repeat this one more time. Who you are mentally and emotionally matters just as much, if not more, than what you are actually doing. If the eternal state doesn't change, the external behavior won't last. And that's why level zero focuses on those exact moments where the brain is the most programmable. So the level zero focuses on three leverage points, right? Number one is pre-sleep identity reinforcement. Okay. Number two is morning consciousness interruption. And number three is daily voluntary controlled discomfort. So you're actively choosing to put yourself in uncomfortable situations and positions. Now, each one targets a different part of the loop. Pre-sleep work influences the subconscious, the unconscious brain. Morning behavior prevents subconscious behavior from taking over. And finally, discomfort rewires your identity through action. And this is not about motivation, this is about changing the environment in which the identity itself can update and can change. And finally, the section 4, level 0 protocol, step by step. This is the practical step. This is exactly what we are doing to actually revive our brains. Because the three sections before were just the theory behind everything. Now we're getting into section 4, the actual step-by-step guide on how to revive your brain. So this is where I actually break down the exact actions I took to rewire my brain and exactly what each action does. So this protocol actually starts the evening before. It doesn't start in the morning, it starts the night before. What we're doing in the evening is we're actually weakening the habitual self, the habitual identity, and we're just priming for the next day. We're laying the foundation. So 10 minutes before sleep, no phone, sit down or lie down comfortably, and just ask yourself, whether you can ask in your head, whether you can write this down to have itself ready for the night. You can just, I have notebooks in the background next to my bed, so I can anytime just flip open the book and see what's in there. So ask yourself, where did I act automatically today? No, I'm asking you, like, ask yourself, write this down. Where did I act automatically today? Good. Now, where did I wish I acted differently? Really imagine this. Really go into detail. Like, think and visualize the situation where you wish you would have acted differently. And lastly, where did I act intentionally? When did my actions actually reflect my internal state and what I wanted it to reflect? When was I actually acting on my own will instead of automatically? And most importantly, ask yourself, how would the person I wish to be act? And finally, how would that person feel? Now, this first part, it helps you kind of identify the problem and what's actually getting in the way. It actually like helps you realize the difference between the person you are and the person you want to be. And once you spot the difference, once you see what actually separates you from that person, then you can actually get into how it feels like to be this person. And this is the most important step, I would say, in this whole program, honestly. Because Dr. Joe Dispenza, in his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, actually puts this really, really well. But in order to have the external reality match your wishes and match your dreams and your goals, first you have to feel like the person you're trying to be. Let me give you an example. I am a millionaire. Do you see how much conviction I had saying that? I am a millionaire. You hear it? I have 1.2 million in my bank account, and it's 2027. This is gonna make sense in a while, but yeah. How would that person feel? How does that person feel? I already feel like this person, so I don't really need to go over this again, but yeah. You have to start feeling like the person you want to be before you actually achieve it. Yes, it sounds delusional. It sounds stupid. And it is delusional, actually, but you have to be delusional in order to change your life. You have to fake it till you make it. Like, in order to become, let's say you want to lose weight, right? How are you going to get fit if you don't act like a fit person? Despite being overweight, you have to take the actions that a fit person takes to become fit. Same as if you want to be a millionaire. You can't just be doing the simple stuff. You have to live, you have to feel, and you have to act like a millionaire. And so, visualize one specific moment tomorrow where you're gonna act different, when you're gonna act exactly like the person you wanna be. Not with guilt, not with shame, not with, oh, I wish I did this, and feeling bad for yourself and holding a grudge against yourself. No. You have to take this with acceptance, calm, controlled, kind, deliberate. You have to look at yourself with forgiveness and love. Because negative emotions, as I discussed in the research earlier, negative emotions impact your capability to make change and actually do something. So why this works is, again, an amazing study. I actually came across this in the book I mentioned, Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And he actually explained the mental practices and their benefits. And there's actually a lot of research about this idea. Like, this is not the only thing that I found. But basically, studies on mental rehearsal actually show that people who repeatedly, I emphasize this, repeatedly visualize performing a skill, performing a task, their brain activates many of the same circuits that are activated during the action itself. So this is why athletes and musicians actually use visualization. This is why athletes and musicians actually use visualization in training. And by mentally rehearsing tomorrow's behavior, you're literally training your brain to be that person, to act like this person, and to feel like this person. So you're literally priming those neural pathways before sleep. And this is why athletes and musicians use visualization. And so you're literally teaching your brain to think and act different, as I said. And Joe Dispenza explains that the brain becomes highly suggestible before sleep. What this means is that mental rehearsal, mental repetition during this state, it actually strengthens new neural pathways way stronger than it usually does. So just before you're asleep, your brain is the most suggestible to change. So this is neurological priming, not really manifestation. Like, you are literally getting your brain used to the state you want to achieve and keep in. And so sleep research actually shows that the brain actually boosts learning and strengthens neural pathways during sleep. So what you focus on before sleep can literally influence which neural pathways get reinforced overnight. So imagine all the times you go to sleep stressed. Imagine all the times you go to sleep guilt. Imagine all the times you go to sleep. And so I really want, what you focus on before sleep can influence which neural pathways get reinforced tonight. Let me break this down once more. What you think about before sleep is literally what gets reinforced in the night. Think about all the times that you went to sleep blaming yourself or feeling guilty. Think about all the times you told yourself you're useless and you're good for nothing. This is what you're actually training your brain. And so reflecting and mentally rehearsing before sleep actually helps you prime the brain for new behavior that you want to apply and you want to reinforce tomorrow. Now, the second step is the morning interruption. So basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to stop the unconscious behavior before it actually happens. We're trying to fix the problem before it actually starts going. So we're trying to stop unconscious behavior from taking over the day, right? And so here are a few main rules. Next step, the morning interruption. What we're doing here is we're trying to basically stop our brain from running on autopilot again. We're stopping unconscious behavior from taking us over. And the main rules for this are pretty simple. It looks like nothing crazy, but hear me out. Number one, become aware of waking consciousness. I'll break this down in a second. Number two, no phone, no dopamine. That includes vaping, that includes TikTok, that includes screens, that includes junk food and any type of food. No dopamine, no phone for at least 15-30 minutes. Ideally, from 60 to 90 minutes is the sweet spot. And then get up immediately. I'm gonna repeat this one more time. Get up immediately. And get sunlight and fresh air and movement as soon as you can. Trust me, this is the big game changer. Fresh air, sunlight, and movement. If you do these things in the morning, you're gonna feel so different. Like, I wanted you to try this so bad, just so you can experience the same things. But finally, observe your impulses, thoughts, and emotions. This is the hardest part, actually. These four, like, you can force yourself to kind of do it. Like, you can do it from willpower alone, just like we discussed. It's not the good way to go, but you can actually force to do these. But when it comes to observation, it's really hard to fight it. Because you feel like you're observant, you feel like you're conscious about what you're thinking, and suddenly you realize you've missed like at least a few thought patterns. And that's if you get lucky enough to spot that. Usually when you're trying to observe your impulses, your thoughts, and your emotions, and you're not used to it, you're just gonna get off track. You're just gonna get back into the unconscious behavior. You're gonna forget that you were observing and move on with your day automatically like you've always been. So this is the most important part to observe. And I'm gonna help you with this as well. So habit research shows that cues and rewards reinforce automatic behavior loops, as I've already shown before. So when you're starting the day with instant stimulation, like scrolling your phone, like smoking, like just feeding yourself cheap dopamine, you're actually reinforcing these loops to get stronger. So the same way that you can reinforce good habits and neural pathways for your new identity, the same way actually works for your old identity. And so whenever you choose instant stimulation in the morning, you're basically jumping headfirst into your old behaviors. And so avoiding that temptation, avoiding that stimulus actually gives you a moment of awareness. And so you can use that moment of awareness to actually stop the unconscious behavior before the autopilot actually takes over. Try to catch the exact moment you wake up. What do I mean by this? Catch your consciousness. This probably sounds complicated, so let me break this down more. The second you wake up, don't even open your eyes, okay? The second you wake up, make a mental remark. I woke up. And try to keep your eyes closed. And try to observe. It's not going to be easy. You're probably going to fail once and twice and more. That's the most important part, is that you have to stay conscious. Catch your consciousness. The moment you wake up, you make a mental remark, I am awake. And if you manage to do that before even opening your eyes or before even taking one sip of air, if you manage to do this, then I guarantee you, you will feel your consciousness growing and actually feel conscious for the first time, where you're not actually running on autopilot, when you're not actually just blindly following your brain. The first time you're actually in the driver's seat. And the second you make the mental remark, observe. Because the things that keep sabotaging you and the things that keep stopping you, this is the moment where they're going to show themselves. Do not hit snooze. Get up immediately. This is so important. Do not hit snooze. I don't care how long you slept. Get up, turn off the alarm, and get out of bed immediately. Head outside as fast as possible. Yes, outside, not in the room, not push-ups on your couch. No, get outside as fast as you can to get sunlight and get some movement. Again, step by step. Notice the moment you wake up. Observe your thoughts without reacting or judging. Get some movement, preferably outside. Now, why this works? It's pretty simple things. It doesn't look anything crazy, except maybe the observation part, right? Except catching your consciousness part. Why this works is, again, early dopamine reinforces old patterns. And so avoiding it actually gives you a chance to choose your behavior instead of going automatically. And so this aligns with both neuroscience and Stoic philosophy that awareness should come before action. Whew. Let's keep going. There's a bit more stuff to cover, and I'm already tired. I am too, but let's keep going. Daily controlled discomfort. This is the active part of rewiring your brain. So the purpose is to reinforce the identity of someone who acts intentionally. And this is why I deliberately choose voluntary discomfort, is because it literally makes you act regardless of how you feel. And that has a direct correlation of how much discomfort you can tolerate, right? It also makes you be able to separate your emotions and your thoughts from your actual thinking. Because you learn to separate your feelings and your emotions from your actual sense of observable self. Let me repeat this one more time. Conscious, voluntary discomfort increases not only your discomfort tolerance, but it actually also makes your brain literally be able to separate your thoughts and your emotions from your consciousness. So you can choose one of these a day. It doesn't matter if it doesn't count really if you're already doing, or let's say you're already working out every single day. If you choose physical exercise once per day, like this is not going to work because you're already used to it. You have to pick something that is uncomfortable to you. So you can choose cold showers, you can choose physical exercise if you don't exercise, you can choose reading instead of scrolling, you can choose any small discomfort you normally avoid, even cleaning your house, like anything that you would normally avoid. Pick one thing and stick with it. Just one discomfort per day, not more. One. And keep it small, keep it really easy, like stupidly easy, so easy that it's impossible to avoid. Like if you make, let's say, run 10 kilometers every day, but you can't even run 5 kilometers, of course you're gonna fail. But if you just commit yourself to a goal to run 1 kilometer every day, then you're gonna come back home, and even though you're tired, you're gonna be like, you know what, it's just 1 kilometer. I can do this, right? Even though I don't feel like it, It's just one. It's just this small little thing. I mean, even though I don't feel like it, I can take this little bit of action. Okay? And so just pick one discomfort a day, keep it small, and try to make it as consistent as can. Like same time, same location, same time, same location. As I said, I'm repeating myself. Ooh. Yeah, same time, same location if possible, because that helps your brain rewire patterns even faster. That way, habits reinforce themselves even faster if you keep the same time, same location. I really recommend you read Atomic Habits by James Clear. But why this works is consistently basically rewires identity. So small repeated actions teach the nervous system that change and unfamiliarity is actually not dangerous. It's actually survivable and it can be chosen on purpose. And so Atomic Habits actually emphasize this clearly. Consistency beats intensity because identity is shaped through repetition and not extremes. So what this means is, let's take me for a really good example. I used to really have intense bursts of energy where I try really hard for a certain amount of time and then I give up again and go back to my old self. And this kept happening on and on and on and on until I actually learned to slow down and just keep on going. And this is actually how I finally managed to slowly but surely overcome myself. And so section 5, how to actually use this without burnout. Now this framework, this protocol, it's not a challenge, it's not a detox, it's not a transformation, it's not about adding more habits, as we already discussed earlier. It is literally a baseline reset. I know I'm repeating myself multiple times in many of these cases, but that's the thing. Your brain is forged on repetition. So the more times I repeat this to you, the better you're going to remember and the more your brain is going to pick up on it. So let me give this one more time. This is not a challenge. This is not a detox. This is not a transformation promise. This is a baseline reset. So again, the guidelines. Do not add more habits yet. This is a really big mistake. I notice myself do a lot and other people do a lot. Do not add more habits yet. Stick to one at a time. Because if you try to make 10 things at once, you're probably going to fail. And it's probably going to get too hard to maintain everything. So rather pick one thing that you can stay on consistently, reliably. And then once that becomes a habit that you don't have to force it anymore, then you can add more things on top, absolutely. Number 2, do not chase intensity. Chase consistency. I'll rather have you do 20 push-ups a day every single day for a month than have you do 200 push-ups a day and then quit for 3 weeks. Okay? Number 3, do not judge progress emotionally. And what I mean by this is actually pretty easy. Is that look at everything as logically as you can, because I know in these moments when you're trying to change something and you don't really see any progress, you tend to overthink things and you tend to basically lower yourself. So, oh, maybe I'm not built for this. I did so bad. No, just look at it logically. Don't look at it emotionally. Don't look at it how you would view it, but look at it factually, how someone from the side would look at it. So instead of just thinking of, oh, I did good at the gym versus I did bad at the gym, just look at the times you showed up. That's it. The amount of days you showed up versus the amount of days that you skipped. And then compare it to last week and then the last month. And look at the progress this way. Not by what you feel like or what you judge it by, but by facts. And for this, actually, of course, you need to track it. You can't change the behavior you're not aware of the same way you cannot track your progress if you're not tracking it. Okay, that doesn't make any sense, but I think you get what I mean. And yeah, focus on awareness, repetition, and stability. 3 key things. Awareness, so that you can cut unconscious behavior, repetition, so that you can rewire your brain and teach it that it's possible, and stability, so you don't actually fall in the same loop as before. And Brianna West explains in her book The Mountain Is You that growth often feels uncomfortable because it literally fights the identity that once kept you safe, that actually served you for so long. So you have to let that discomfort exist without reacting to it. And this is exactly why we're forcing ourselves to do these uncomfortable things every single day. So that's why I'm saying pick one uncomfortable thing every single day that you can commit to, because that literally teaches your brain that discomfort can exist and it doesn't have to be fought. It can exist as part of your life. And when identity stabilizes, only then the behavior follows. And this is where the real change begins. I will give you a bonus advanced technique that's not really told here, that's probably going to help you speed up the process probably 3 to 4 times, if not more, depending on how well you do it. And I'm doing this just because if you watched it until this far, then I actually know you're serious. And so I want you to make progress faster. And yeah, DM me the words "I finished," and I'm gonna send you over the technique that's actually helping me manifest my dream life up to this day. And that's what actually I used pretty much to make the shift in my life a couple of weeks ago. And now I live in my dream life, I'm working my dream job, and I'm basically on the way to shifting my whole reality into whatever I want. So yeah, if you have any questions or you need any advice, feel free to DM me. I will help you with whatever I can. And if you watched it till this far, I'm really, really grateful. Number one, you decided to actually make change and you're actually serious about it. Number two, for actually sticking here till the end, because I know this wasn't easy. Like, this is a raw piece of content, nothing edited, nothing. This is, wow. If you watched till the end, I'm really proud of you. Keep going, and I know you're gonna make it. So yeah, best of luck, and thank you for your time. Best of luck with making change, and see you next time. Bye.